Happy Arvo. Hello. Thank you so much for joining me today. And welcome to This Week in Australia. That's right. We're all the way from up here in Indiana. I'm going down under to see what took place in Australia this week. Using, of course, nothing other than the subreddit. Let's go. Okay, the top post of the week is kind of a doozy. But we're going to have to get through it because it's the top post of the week. Japan's public transport and housing is so good it makes ours feel like a hate crime. Wait, is this the Australian subreddit or the American? No, it's the Australian. Okay, went to Japan a few months back, and upon return, people say how it was. All I want to talk about is the infrastructure. A public transport system that actually functions. You would not believe it. No, it cannot be. But it's possible to get off a train and the connecting bus is just there. Oh my God, what's a train? Like on time. Where it's meant to be at the time it's meant to be there. Wow. Sounds like fantasy. Going somewhere, jump in the train, use a bus. Oh man, the high-speed trains too. Zip from Tokyo to Osaka in comfort and style, and all I'm thinking about is why this doesn't exist between Melbourne and Geelong, Ballarat, Bendigo. Why doesn't it exist between Sydney and Wollongong and down the coast? Unfortunately, Sydney's biggest cities are really far away, from each other. Which maybe is actually a good reason to have something, like a really fast high-speed train. That would actually be super useful in Australia, wouldn't it? I went to see a cool art show, Team Labs, check it out, and found these cool apartment buildings, a shopping center, and a train stop, all within actual walking distance. I do feel like, as far as the public transport, that sounds remarkable, but I do feel like you're comparing it to what is, I don't know this as a fact, but it's probably the best public transport system in the world. So it's kind of hard to compare yourself to that. You know what I mean? If you want to feel better about it, just compare it to America. Then you'll feel good about your public transport. Like you could come out of your apartment, cross 50 meters of an open, beautiful green space that had people using it, and go into a shopping area with supermarkets, bakeries, and all sorts of things. And Japan just seems kind of magical in general. I'm not going to lie. It kind of does. Since I've come back, it's just so blindingly obvious that the infrastructure of our cities and towns is beyond effed and wrong. No integration of transport, living, working, and shops. It's just nuts that we have these shopping centers and there's not great apartments right next to them, and a bloody connecting train line with frequent trains. Japan has to be one of the best examples of GDP not being the best metric. Like, it's a metric to, grade any economy by, but it's not necessarily the best metric for how it actually functions living there, quality of life, and especially public transport and stuff. Their GDP has been flat since literally the mid-90s. Holy crap. That's amazing. And GDP per capita is really not 33,000. I think Australia is in the 50s. 65. Yeah. So it definitely does make you feel bad, doesn't it? They're definitely doing something. They know something over there in Japan that we don't know. Or something is going on. Maybe their politicians aren't morons. I'm not talking about Australia. I'm thinking of this from an American perspective. I'm trying to figure it out. People will say that Japan is so much bigger, so we can't possibly do that. But when I visited Copenhagen, the train came every 2 minutes. So let's try to at least get that. There's probably some truth to the fact that Japan is a super densely populated island. You know what I mean? There's more people that live in Japan than in 125 million. Man, it's always a little more than I even think it's going to be. In Japan. I've looked up their population before, but every time I'm like, 125 million? So quite a lot of people packed into quite a small island does help. It just makes, you know, any infrastructure that they do build is going to get used by a whole lot of people, so it makes it very efficient. But like he says here, Melbourne has 5.3 million, Sydney has 5.18, and that is nothing to sneeze at, indeed. But the cities in Japan being much closer together, the big cities, you know, makes a high-speed rail way more viable. Oscar Piastri takes his second Formula One Grand Prix win in Baku, Azerbaijan. Not gonna lie, I've never heard of that country. Just being honest. But congrats to Oscar. Look him up. Oscar Piastri. "23 years old. Oh my God, this makes me feel old. He was born after the year 2000. God dang. Oscar Jack Piastri. What a boss. God, that would be fun to drive. I couldn't find the Jafal maker, but the SO, significant other, had a Samaso maker in the cupboard. I don't know what either of those things are. I think I've started myself a thing. And that just looks like a grilled cheese sandwich. Jafal. Jafal? What? I searched it and I don't even know what I'm what I'm looking at. Ah. Oh, is it spelled like this? Oh, a waffle? I'm confused. Why is a joffle called a joffle? Joffles are an Aussie invention. What the hell is this? How have I never heard of this? A grilled cheese sandwich. Why are you guys trying to be fancy calling it a jaffle? Jaffle. A jaffle. Please, Mama, make me a jaffle. Why do you need a special maker? I mean, that does look pretty sick. I'm not going to lie. That's awesome. But what's the difference between just taking, you know, the bread and putting it in a frying pan and then cutting it in half when it's done? Now I got to look up a samosa. Samosa maker. What the hell? What? What is that? Whoa. I don't know what that is. I would eat it. Samosa, from the Persian word sambosag, is a fried South Asian and West Asian snack. Ooh, I bet that's good. Australia, Bowen Basin. Whoa. That's kind of scary and stunning. What is the Bowen Basin? Where's that at? Contains the largest coal reserves in Australia. Somewhere in Queensland. That is very pretty, but if I saw that here in Indiana, that would be the sign of a tornado rolling in, potentially. Only in Australia. BHS, I assume that's a high school, is currently in a lockdown. Uh-oh. This is due to a large kangaroo on site. Oh my God. Usually, I mean, over here in America, when you get this text, it's not because of a kangaroo. It's because of something a lot more dire. We have carried this out as a precaution to ensure the safety of our staff and the students. As you can get disemboweled by a kangaroo, folks, as you guys have told me many times. My friend stores the scotch like this. Should I call the police? What's a scotch? Scotch cookie. Oatmeal cookie. Scotch oatmeal cookies. Is that what that is? How are they meant to be stored? You don't need this negativity in your life. What's the problem here? This looks fine to me. Does anyone know what purpose this serves? Seen at the Crown Street Mall in Wollongong. Wollongong. Whoa. You may not have the best public transport service, but you got flying trees. It's got to count for something. That's pretty cool. Does it have a purpose? A really expensive art installation. Worth it. It was recently decided that it would not be taken down as the cost of doing so would cost the council more than the continued maintenance cost. How much could this be to take down? You just had to take down a tree. How could that cost? I mean, I guess the cost of maintaining it is basically nothing. What do you need to maintain it? Give it some water? That's hilarious. Compulsory gratuity in a restaurant. Is this even legal? It certainly is over here in America. At least if you have a party over 6 people or 6 people and over, they will do it. They won't tell you. And it ain't going to be 10% either. It's going to be 20. 3% gratuity is added to all bills. 10% service charge replaces the gratuity for groups of 8 or more. Oh, well, at least that's a service charge. That's different, right? There's this trend over here in America. I can't believe it, to be honest, but they've started tacking on a service charge onto the bill at some restaurants. On top of the 20% that you're supposed to tip. And I guess they want you to tip on the service charge as well because they add it to the bill. They don't even tell you, so you tip on the total. I don't fall for it. In fact, I just, deduct that service charge from my tip. It's like, okay, whatever. I'm not paying. I'm not gonna pay extra. Whatever. I don't know. It's the most absurd thing I've ever. So compared to that, what happens over here in America, this is nothing. Nothing. But I do understand I'm putting myself in the perspective of someone who doesn't live in a way overly tipping society. And I'm trying to be outraged for you. 3%. Ah! 10% Sunday surcharge, 15% surcharge applies on public holidays. Now, that is kind of a unique Australian thing. That does not happen over here in America. Yay. As far as it being illegal, it should not be. Illegal. The 3% needs to be part of the prices. Wow. Gotta love Australia. Voted for the first time ever today and obviously got my democracy snag. Why is it on a piece of white bread? There's no like condiments. No mustard. Just a white bread. Okay. Hey, if it's free, I'd eat it. What are y'all voting for? Maybe the Australian Capital Territory general election? It's held on October 19th. Maybe it's early voting for that? My daughter drew a picture of Bluey. What do you think? Stunning. That's awesome. This actually looks like that would make such a great character for a parody of Bluey where he like smokes cigarettes. Or it's a girl where she smokes cigarettes. Garlic Australian from Mexico. Let's see here. Garlic Australian. 3-pack. Hold on. Wait for it. product of Mexico. Well, they're selling it in Australia. Okay, so it's Australian garlic now. So from the moment it was imported, it is now Australian garlic. Actually, this says garlic Australian. So this should be an Australian person for sale that is made of garlic. As we start getting our gear off for summer, book a skin check. Oh, that's right. You guys are going into summer now, huh? That's still kind of trippy to me. Well, I'm jealous of you guys. Well, then again, I guess summer's like 100 degrees, so maybe I'm not. But we're going into winter, obviously. Well, we're going into fall. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Pretty great week in Australia, you know, no bad news. I enjoyed this week. That was a great week. Have a great weekend to top it off, and I'll see you guys next week.